You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 5 is on deck. We are locked and loaded tonight. A lot of quarterback talk. You already know what the deal is. And again, you already know what time it is. A casual Friday night here on the show. You could have been anywhere else, but you're with us tonight. Super appreciate y'all, as always. Let me know if the audio is good. I know start of last show was a little rough. As always, QR code, every bit of social media content. Love, and appreciate the support y'all are giving me out there. Of course, it's been great. Of course, the podcast content is out there as well. Wherever you're at, let's run the likes up on the stream. Let's get to 100 likes on the stream tonight, whether you're on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, or all of the above, wherever you're seeing me. Subscribe, hit the bell so you never, ever miss a post. The NFL with AJL episode 5. You know, every time we go live, you can call into the show 678-480-8716. Don't be afraid. I promise I am nice. I love a good debate. So let's make it happen tonight. We got Justin Fields on the docket. We got Lamar Jackson. We got to grade these NFL head coaches that just got hired right after the Super Bowl, too. Didn't want to stretch it out too much on the last show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, 678-480-8716 is the line to call. And again, more topics, more craziness. Sometimes I won't understand what what's actually breaking into the news, but nonetheless, we have it here. The Senior Bowl has concluded, which I'm not here to talk about the Senior Bowl, but there are multiple reports where executives, scouts, whatever the case may be, have come away from the Senior Bowl and are now saying that with the Chicago Bears having the number 1 overall pick, that they could possibly move off of Justin Fields and maybe go get a C.J. Stroud or a Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, whatever they want to do. I don't think they should do that. Obviously, they have a couple of different options here that they can go with, but like the grass hasn't even grown with Justin Fields yet. The man hasn't even grown a full beard since being in Chicago yet. Like, what are we doing here? Let the guy have some time. He's went through 2 head coaches. He hasn't had a true offensive weapon that he's been able to take advantage of. We got so much to get into with Justin Fields, but of course I want to address the chat. Sounds good, Chief. Appreciate you, boss, and appreciate you being the first comment on the show tonight as well. Darby, I can't believe what people are saying about Justin Fields. I hope we go get him. The Falcons could make a call. The almost said the Cardinal Panthers. The Panthers could make a call, of course. I'm not going to get too much into that, but let's just break it down a little bit here with Justin Fields. So again, reports coming out of the Senior Bowl that these executives are saying, okay, we want to move off of Justin Fields potentially. There's been a lot of talk around this, but the biggest thing for me is people are now seeing that with the Senior Bowl. They're taking his comment about, oh, I hope that the Bears get me into a dome or they build a dome or something. So essentially, I guess not so he could play better, but it was just his personal preference. And I think that's being really, really inflated and blown out of the water right now. Because let's just be real. What quarterback doesn't want to play in a dome? Maybe they do like the cold better or the snow, whatever the case is, being outside. But to me, every quarterback out there would want to play in a dome. It's controlled temperatures. You more than likely have AC. It's balanced temperatures. Like the noise can kind of be an advantage for you Saints fans out there. Of course, you know that. Any other team out there with a dome, you know that once the dome encloses the noise, it's harder for that defense or just nonetheless for the opposing team to actually lock in. So the whole dome comment, I think, is getting completely blown out of proportion. And of course, people always want to use the highest, possible standard to compare people to, which isn't a problem, but we know Fields is a couple seasons away from that. Patrick Mahomes apparently was caught on the sideline in a video, mic'd up saying, oh man, I love playing in the cold. Like, give me the cold, give me the snow. And that's great. Mahomes is one of one. He is also the 6th best quarterback of all time. We're talking about a second-year Justin Fields here. So let's just keep it a buck. Let's just keep it real and keep on moving along through this segment. I again, as we go through this, it still shocks me that Justin Fields on the potential trade block, whether it happens on draft night, whether it happens before, whatever the case may be, that those rumors are actually out there. Now, here's the reasons that everyone's talking about. This is why we should trade Justin Fields, says 2% of the Bears fan base. I don't know. If you're a Bears fan, whether you see it on social media, you're live here in the stream, call into the show. What do you want to happen with Justin Fields? So in 2 years, Justin Fields has completed 59% of his passes. He has a passer rating under 80. In total, 24 touchdowns, 21 interceptions over a span of 2 years. And if he is average potentially this year, if he comes back out third year, doesn't look great under Eberflus, if they potentially butcher the draft or whatever the case may be, if he doesn't look good, his trade value could possibly decrease. And I understand that. I definitely understand that, because there is a chance that the Bears might not be back in the number one pick position again. So I get it. When you're in a big spot, when you're in an unlikely spot, and you feel like you have a once in a 2-decade or, once in a 50-year span chance that you want to take advantage of that. So, maybe moving off Fields now is the most value that he has. I'm not necessarily agreeing with that, but that's some of the stipulations as to why they should move off of Justin Fields. And another reason, the new regime did not draft Justin Fields. People forget that the GM, Ryan Poles was hired in January of 22, and Eberflus was just the head coach last year for his first year. So the head coach and the GM did not pick Justin Fields. They didn't make that trade on draft night to go get Justin Fields and to steal the NFL draft. Wasn't their decision. So in a way, you could say that there's really no ties there. I think they would be incredibly stupid to move off of Justin Fields, but the new regime didn't draft him. Don't know what the GM and the head coach are feeling, but the facts are the facts. Now, here's another thing also. At the end of the day, the reason I think they shouldn't move off of him is Justin Fields needs a consistent offensive weapon, like when Stephon Diggs was given to Josh Allen, or like when Jalen Hurts was given to Devontae Smith or an A.J. Brown, or like we've seen these multiple players move throughout. Kyler Murray might not have taken leaps and bounds, but he damn sure had a wide receiver one in DeAndre Hopkins when, he arrived in Arizona. So we kind of saw the stretching of the potential and of the talent, for these quarterbacks that, we're getting these trades for these wide receivers to help them out. Now, he needs a consistent head coach. He's had 2 coaches in 2 years, like I said, Matt Nagy, who went 34-31 in his time there, and then Matt Eberflus as well, who clearly secured getting the number 1 overall pick for the Chicago Bears. So that's just a reflection in itself. And to know that they stole the draft 2 years back with that trade, hyping everyone up, and a lot of the fan base, I feel like personally, I don't know a lot of Bears fans, but I watch plenty of content. I put a lot of research into this show, and just from, the podcast that I look to and the articles, like Justin Fields, he's not the savior, but he is that guy. He is him for this franchise. Not saying that he's an elite quarterback. I thought he was a great talent coming out of college, but Justin Fields, again, in my opinion, and to the fan base, it looks like that's the solution, right? I mean, Bears fans, again, get in the comments. I'm about to check the chat. Let me know. Tell me on social media, is Justin Fields really that solution for the Bears? Going over to the chat here. I'll trade our 29th pick for Fields. Yep. I'm here for that. I'd love to have him in New Orleans. That'd be really nice. Justin Fields. I don't know what you're getting at there, bro. Love you though anyways, Darby. But here's the biggest thing, right? So it's way too early to be out on him. And I want to show this. I literally put this graphic right into the stream before we went live, so I could just, the numbers will literally drive it home for you. Speaking of Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, you take a look at Josh Allen's first 2 seasons, as it says right there. 56% completion, 30 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, and a 78 rating. Jalen Hurts, who just went to a Super Bowl. Josh Allen, who's been to an AFC title game. But on Jalen Hurts here, 59% completion, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 84.7 rating. You see it on the screen here. Justin Fields' first 2 years, 59.7%, 24 touchdowns, 21 picks, about an 80% passer rating. We had questions about Josh Allen. We definitely had questions about Jalen Hurts until he took him to the Super Bowl, and we're going to get into our top 10 quarterbacks going into next season later on in this episode. But again, for people that just hopped in, we're talking about the Justin Fields trade here, the potential Justin Fields trade, which I think is insanely stupid as hell. And it's been 2 seasons for Fields. We want to talk highly of Josh Allen, which I think he's great. We want to talk highly of Jalen Hurts, which I think he's great. Here's the numbers here. Give Justin Fields a chance. Trade for him, a wide receiver. I understand he had Allen Robinson and only 400 yards, I think, in that year before he went on to the Rams. I definitely know over 1,000 yards the year before. Darnell Mooney's obviously been hurt. You got to get him some consistent coaching, a consistent front office. And I get it. The Bears aren't the most well-ran team out there, but to actually say that Justin Fields is worth moving off of after seeing those numbers, I just don't know, man. I mean, I love Justin Fields. I argue that he was more talented than Trevor Lawrence coming in. Clearly, we've seen the leap Trevor Lawrence has taken, but let's also realize before all of you, oh, look at Trevor Lawrence. You think he's the second best. Trevor Lawrence also has Doug Peterson, who just won a Super Bowl 5 years ago. So let's not act like that accomplishment for Doug Peterson isn't now rubbing off on Trevor Lawrence. I wish the Bears could have got Sean Payton. I wish the Bears maybe would have went out and got Shane Steichen. He looked great up that Philly offense, just comparing him to Jalen Hurts, of course, and he likes to mold younger players. So I don't know what's going to happen. Again, the Justin Fields potential trade, kind of crazy to me. Call the show. Let me know what you think, though. 678-480-8716. Again, like the stream wherever you are watching. Please subscribe on YouTube. This QR code, scan it. If you're watching on your phone and you can't scan, the link is down below with the link tree. It's in all the social media bios on social media. Obviously. Let's check into the chat here before we move on. Saints. Oh, here we go. Saints suck. No one wants to play in the swamp land. All right, Namdi. I thought we were cooler than that, man. Good to see you, though, bro. Miss you. I was literally just talking to my mom the other day about how when we broke out the PlayStation, when we lived in the trailer park, and you were like, man, she needs to break out that PlayStation. I think I was in like 6th grade. I still have that PlayStation, bro. Namdi, you're a Bears fan, though. Really quick, let me know. What do you think? Should the Bears move off Justin Fields? Genuinely, there's no wrong answer. Darby in the chat here says trade first overall pick to the Colts. Yeah, that's good. For the 4th overall pick in the 2023 second rounder, that could be very solid. If for some reason, God, what's his name? Jackson Smith in Jagoba or something. I was just researching that not long ago, so kind of butchered the name. But Fields said that he wanted him in the draft. He's like, man, I know he didn't get to play last year. They obviously played together at Ohio State. You know, he was like, I would really, really like to see what he would do in the draft, and I would love for him to fall to us. Get this man Marvin Harrison Jr. facts at 4th overall and get this man O-line 100%. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs. Make sure you contact Buy and Sell with AJL, whether you need to get your dream home, cash out with your equity, acquire an investment for your retirement for passive income, or you just want to have a conversation in general about real estate. They'll keep you ahead of the daunting media headlines. And they write an awesome newsletter as well. Be sure to get at them on all social media platforms at Buy and Sell, Buy and Sell with AJL. The handle is in the description. Rolling. We are about 12 minutes in. We got about 4 live viewers here. And I told you we were talking about head coaches today. Shortly after the Super Bowl concluded, all of the NFL head coaching spots are now filled. The Eagles' offensive and defensive coordinator cleared out, went to the Cardinals, went to the Colts. We're going to dig deep into that. Darby said and give him Jalen Hurts' phone number. Whatever that means. I like that, though. I really like that. All right. So first and foremost, I'm not going to be grading Sean Payton here. I put out a completely separate video when we, debuted a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, actually, with episode 1. So that video is out. Sean Payton, clearly A+. He made Drew Brees a legend. He did a lot for the Saints, won the Super Bowl in the 3rd year, 2 NFC title games, one of those in his 1st year. Saints wore bags on their heads, and Sean Payton made them a contender 10 out of the 15 years he was there. All right, story over. Now let's talk about Jonathon Gannon to the Arizona Cardinals. Is that the first one right here? Yes, it is. So the Cardinals hired Jonathon Gannon, the former Eagle DC, obviously, who has coached since 2007. And just a little bit on his resume to kind of bring some light to what he's done. So he was the Falcons defensive quality control coach in 2007, spent a little bit of time with the Titans doing the same, coached some defensive backs in Minnesota from 14 to 17, did the same with Indianapolis with defensive backs from 18 to 20. Obviously, he was a DC for the Eagles from last year to this year, and then now he is the Arizona Cardinals head coach. He was also an executive, he was a college scout and a pro scout with the Rams from 2009 to 2011 looks like. So pretty solid. Not a bad resume, right? He's had some time throughout the NFL. Clearly he's very highly acclaimed from what he just did with that Eagles offense. But is it all that it's cracked up to be? And what is the true grade on this head coaching hire? So last year with the defense, they were number 2 overall with about 302 yards given up per game. They were first overall with passing yards with 180 yards, and they were dead middle of the pack at 17th in rush yards per game, giving up about 122. And they were 8th in defensive points per game, giving up 20. One thing I noticed this year, the NFL was very defensive. I want to say the worst team in the league only gave up 26 points a game. And that's major considering we had the Seahawks giving up 35, 40 points a game, 400, 500, and 600 yards of offense. Not literally that much, but we know the comparison from, 26 points for the worst defense in the league gave up 26 points a game. That was just kind of a shocker to me. Now in the postseason, They were second in total yards. They were first in passing yards, and they were also fifth worst in rush yards per game, but third overall best in points. So, off the rip, I'm a big Kyler Murray fan, and that's kind of coming back to bite me in the ass here lately, but I loved how he played at Oklahoma. Clearly a Heisman winner, clearly a number one overall pick, clearly very talented, throws one of the best footballs in the league, but he's got commitment issues. He's not issues, but he's got commitment questions. He's got health questions. He's, been bickering with coaches, bickering with players. You have players' parents coming out and saying like, yeah, we don't really know how we feel about him. So again, off the rip, I didn't like the move. Again, there's questions about Kyler Murray out here, but we know at the end of the day with his play style, he needs not only an offensive minded head coach, which, Cliff Kingsbury was, but he needs a very smart head coach as well, a guy that it can apply his mind to the game, really get to know the X's and O's and propel this team. I get it. They started 7-0. They finished the season 11-5. So they went, under 500 down the stretch. So, it's kind of like with Baker Mayfield, and Ryan Tannehill, a couple years back. You can catch the lightning in a bottle, comparing this to how, Kingsbury kind of had some positivity going with that 7-0 record. But if you can't sustain it, you're going to have questions around you. And just like we do now with Baker Mayfield and Ryan Tannehill. Now, when you look at Jonathan Gannon, he does have awesome culture, it seems like, and he did just come off an amazing season with the Eagles. There's no question about that. But we don't know how much of that was really Jonathan Gannon, how much of that was Shane Steichen, and how much of that was Nick Sirianni in terms of actually creating that entire awesome culture of the team. Of course, we know he held down the defense. Well, we're going to get into why that wasn't necessarily all that it cracked up to be. So again, we don't know how much of that was, building the culture from the OC to the head coach, obviously, to the DC as well, like I just mentioned. But also with the super weak schedule as well, and the Cowboys, when they were fully healthy, dropped 40 points on, yes, a Jalen Hurtless Eagles. We know that. We can go back and check the stats. We know he didn't play, but that was still on that defense of Jonathan Gannon. So you cannot look away from that. That is a game that happened, and that was kind of the concern. And then it, of course, came forward in the Super Bowl, didn't show up in the second half, and they gave up almost damn near the same amount of points with 38. And then boom, going, looking at my notes here, 24 second half, it's given up to the Chiefs after you were up by 10. Patrick Mahomes literally has one incompletion, which wasn't even an incompletion. It was a throwaway. So every time he threw the ball to the receiver, it was caught. And then the Eagles get torched. And with two of the exact same plays we saw with the motion when they overcompensate, shout out to Dougie Fresh, whatever y'all want to call him. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore just getting wide open on those plays. So, this seems to be way too soon for Jonathan Gannon, realistically. And the Cardinals, I know they want to change their identity so quick from last year. They were with an offensive coach like Cliff Kingsbury, super blitz-heavy defensive coordinator who, no joke, sent cover zero more than anybody in the NFL last year. And clearly that was a flop. You had the second worst defense in terms of points per game last year, and you had the ninth worst passing defense. People were throwing it all over the yard, and people were scoring it all over the yard on you. And the numbers show that. And now they want to go to a culture guy who runs these passive defenses in these big moments, clearly like we saw in the Super Bowl, clearly like we saw in the Dallas game. So it's tough for a Cardinals team because it feels like so fast, like Kyler Murray's in great talks. He's in the MVP talks, just a couple seasons back. Like, what's the type of money he's going to make? He looks so special. And now it's like Kyler Murray's all of a sudden, now he's finishing every season hurt, which isn't a surprise, but it sucks that he's finishing every season hurt. He's not getting along with players and coaches. The commitment, obviously. I mean, the fact that they had to put the studying clause in his contract, and I didn't entertain that. I didn't look too much into it, but that story broke and that news broke, and that contract was written that way for a reason. So I say all that to say it's so unfortunate to know that the Cardinals, I thought, kind of had a brighter future ahead of them, even though I didn't like the Kingsbury hire. And it's kind of a oxymoron to say this, but outside of the bad Cliff Kingsbury hire, I thought they looked good. Clearly not the case here. I want to check back into the chat before we continue to go through the show. Again, appreciate everybody that's with us tonight. Yes, trade him. We need so many pieces on offense and defense. Just going back to the Justin Fields thing a little bit, I totally feel you on that, bro. And that's a reason that people are saying they should trade, because they need more than, they need multiple pieces. Yes, they need a quarterback, but they need people to put around that quarterback. And like Darby said, go get him a Marvin Harrison Jr., go get him a JSN out of Ohio State, draft him an offensive line, but maybe they trade, lean into a Stroud, lean into a Young, Richardson, Levis, whatever the case may be, and try to rebuild it from there. So overall, on Jonathon Gannon, I'm going to give that a D. And the big reason is, I feel like it was too soon. They're really trying to do a 180 on this culture and turn it around. And we don't know what that's going to be like. Like, I know he's getting in there and he's happy to work with an elite Kyler Murray. Maybe it works. I hope it works. I love Kyler. I want to buy his jersey, but I have that, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't. So again, I'm going to give this a D. Do I think what he did with the Eagles warranted a head coaching position? No, I don't. Over an Eric Bieniemy? Absolutely not. Over a Byron Leftwich? Absolutely not. I'm going to give this one a D here. Now let's look into Frank Reich to the Panthers. Head coaching hire. Thought it was pretty solid overall. Frank Reich has showed that he is a proven winner, that he can lead a team to the playoffs, even in the middle of your franchise quarterback retiring. Surprisingly, he still did the best that he could. Of course, he's been with the Colts forever, from coaching intern to, offensive coaching staff assistant. Obviously, receivers coach with the Cardinals, receivers coach with the Colts as well. Had some time with the Chargers, of course, with the Eagles. Back with the Colts again. He's had his time in the NFL. Again, we know that, just like Jonathon Gannon did. And people do forget that after a 1-5 start with the Colts, he led them to a 10-6 record, winning 9 of their final 10 games, and that was with an Andrew Luck. I want to say that was in Andrew Luck's last season, if I'm not mistaken. And then you looked at that time, they had become just the 3rd team in NFL history to do that, following a 1-5 record, following that type of start, and then reaching that postseason for the first time for the Colts in general since 2014. So Frank Reich has definitely done big things for the Colts, and I think he's going to be able to transfer that over into Carolina as well. Now, of course, they go on and they beat the Texans in the wild card round that year, 21-7, and then they lose to the Chiefs in the divisional. So it's kind of like a super high, back down so low, which it is what it is, of course. But Frank Reich has showed that he's a winner and that he can do things in the NFL. He can lead you to a playoff win. He was doing pretty solid with Andrew Luck, obviously, until things happened, injuries, retirement. We know how the story went. But even following Andrew Luck's sporadic retirement before the 2019 season, his time, I feel like, was really stained with a lot of quarterback instability. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett was in 2019. Phillip Rivers was in 2020. Carson Wentz was in 2021. And then you had Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger back to Matt Ryan in 2022. And I think there was another quarterback like Davis Wyatt or something. I don't know. It was on a graphic from the Herd when they were talking about how the Eagles haven't played any Pro Bowl quarterback. So, it's been very unfortunate, right? Then, of course, he gets fired this year after starting 3-5-1. Fired on November 7th. And I just really hated it because, again, the Colts didn't feel like the Cardinals, but, just a couple years back, like, the roster was great. The defense was awesome. I mean, we were talking about Bobby Okereke. We were talking about, I think it was Julian Blackmon, we were talking about a lot of these, Malik Hooker. We were talking about a lot of defensive players, young, middle-aged, and veterans that were just really making this team a powerhouse. And it's just like, damn, I've been saying that Matt Ryan should have went to the Colts for a year. It finally happens. It looks like shit, unfortunately. Can't even sugarcoat that. So it really sucks because it feels like the Colts were like on the verge of a breakthrough, but from like bad to average, not even from average to good, but it felt like it had a positive uptick, obviously, with the team. Now, when you just look at some of his stats here, and again, I want to give Frank Reich his credit. He was 10-6 in 2018 when he lost to the Chiefs. Like I mentioned, went 7-9 the year after when Andrew Luck retired. Goes 11-5 and then loses to the Bills in the AFC wildcard game. That was in 2020 when they went 11-5. They go 9-8 with Carson Wentz, and then they go 3-5-1 under Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, whoever the hell was taking snaps under center, and then he was fired, like I said. So overall, he was 40-33-1 in his head coaching tenure. He's a strong offensive play caller. We've seen that, but unfortunately, he's had those very unstable quarterbacks in his time in Indianapolis, and we'll never know if that was the front office or if that was just him. We will never know how much of that was on him and was on the front office. And I just got to say, Matt Ryan did not deserve that. He deserved the trade, but he didn't deserve to go out like that. It's so unfortunate. Like, I hate when I feel like teams are just, and maybe this is sports, right? They're just a move or two away, but they fumble it so bad. And it still bothers me to my core. It definitely does. And I hated to see Matt Ryan, his career kind of come to a halt like that. But I know they said they're 100% going quarterback in this draft, talking about Frank Reich to the Carolina Panthers here. And we know the news will unfold as things happen. So believe it or not, when you look back, and, I was talking to a good Panthers fan about this, when you look back through the history of the Panthers franchise. This is no joke, the first offensive coach in Panthers history. You got Ron Rivera, you had John Fox, even the interims at that time. Those were defensive guys. The true cornerstone coaches of the Panthers were defensive guys at the end of the day. And you look at the fact that they had a solid run game this year. And I feel like if they can get the quarterback right, along with Frank Reich already being hired, we could see a turnaround here and kind of surprise people sooner rather than later here in the NFL. Plus, we know Frank Reich coming from the Colts, going to the Panthers, he's got a lot better of a roster and just more talent in Carolina than he did in Indianapolis. So overall, this is a much, much better situation for him. But I want to elaborate a little more on that quarterback situation because this could be really pivotal, really, really pivotal for Frank Reich and the Colts. So, I don't know if we can call it a knock, but one of his traits is he wants that big 6'5" pocket passer, not necessarily cookie cutter, but really fundamental, doesn't move a lot in the pocket type of guy, right? Someone strong who can stand in the pocket, deliver the football, read defenses. So you look at the Phillip Rivers, the Carson Wentz's, the Peyton Mannings back in the earlier days when he was coaching with him, Matt Ryan. He never sought out those, quarterbacks that are being highly acclaimed in the draft now. Obviously, how, Josh Allen can move. And, I get it. Mobile quarterbacks aren't necessarily a very exciting topic for, I don't even want to say old heads, but for traditional watchers of football, they don't really care about the new mobile style of quarterback. And I can kind of get with that because pocket passers have been proven in the game. And again, Frank Reich doesn't really want to go for those mobile types of quarterbacks that we drool over all the time. So you got to ask the question of, would he actually pull the trigger on an Anthony Richardson, on a Bryce Young, potentially on a CJ Stroud if they get the chance, or on an Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young in this draft that are known to be a little more shifty. Obviously, CJ Stroud moves as well, but he is a pretty good pocket passer. Obviously, taking a look at Will Levis, those tendencies could make him flip on the type of quarterback that they decide to pick. So, that could be a major, major X factor for this team. The Panthers want a quarterback. They need a quarterback. I'm going to give this Frank Reich hiring an A-. Want to check back in on the chat? Nobody yet. Let me get this sip of water here. That's too good. I'm too good to you. I'm way too good to you. All right. So we got A- on Frank Reich to the Panthers. We have a D for Jonathon Gannon to the Arizona Cardinals. Now let's go ahead and talk about Demeco Ryans going to the Texans, which when you first hear about it, and I think I said it in the first or second episode, like Demeco Ryans is going to last a whole 60 seconds with the Texans, right? Not a great job. Like clearly Lovie Smith, who was a former, Super Bowl coach, not a Super Bowl winning coach, but lost to the Colts in the Super Bowl. He goes over there, doesn't even, gets fired, right after the season, and it is what it is. I kind of felt like the same thing was going to happen with Demeco Ryans. But when you look at the fact that compared to Jonathon Gannon, he actually ran and led the best defense in the NFL, I think like we all agree was actually the San Francisco 49ers. And he wanted to go here. He used to play here. He chose the job over other places to come and coach here. He's excited to be here. Former player with J.J. Watt back in those elite days, when J.J. Watt obviously was having his elite times with the Texans. Demeco Ryans played for the Texans at that time. I want to say in the linebacker position. This is a high energy, a big time culture guy who's been a proven leader in his San Francisco tenure. Of course, you looked at Ufanga, who was fitting in nicely with those blitzes, and that's one thing that he can be acclaimed for is he's very good at maximizing his players and stretching them, getting the most out of them. Looking at how Fred Warner, of course, balled out next to him in that linebacker position, and just they really complemented each other. He brought out everything in that defense. Like I said, truly maximized them, the potential of this team. They were first in yards, they were first in points, they were second in rushing. But the only thing is they were 20th overall in passing defense. So they were clearly an elite defensive team and have been for about the last half decade in the NFL. Now, a player under him that I think Demeco Ryans would be able to mold is a Derek Stingley. You look at how that transformation under Demeco could possibly be something interesting to witness and watch, because Derek Stingley, obviously coming out of LSU, what they call the DBU, very highly acclaimed. And of course, he was a good prospect. But knowing that a coach like Demeco Ryans could actually, really just get that deep work, fine-tune detail work, like get him to just really, stretch the potential out of his players, really maximize what they can do on the field. I believe that's something we could see with Demeco Ryans over Derek Stingley. And I know people are going to say that Demeco Ryans has never run an offense, he's never worked with offensive players, or he's never been a head coach, which is all very true. But I think when you take a look at how the Jets were before they hired Robert Saleh and how the Texans were before they hired, or before they hired a guy, like Demeco, because I feel like Demeco and Robert Saleh, obviously both being defensive coordinators for the Niners, led a great Niners, defensive unit. And they're just high energy. They were known for their culture. So I feel like maybe the Texans are possibly taking a taking a page out of the Jets book, moving that Niners elite DC into a head coaching position. And I mean, Robert Saleh hasn't been a horrible hire. I'm not going to say it's worked. And before anyone goes crazy, I'm not going to sit here and debate whether the Texans were as much of a mess as the Jets were, but they were both still bad. And the Jets made a decent head coaching hire, and I feel like this could be at least a decent head coaching hire for the Houston Texans here. Again, he's now spent all of his time with just one team, a lot shorter of a resume. 2017, defensive quality control coach with the Niners. 2018 through 2020, inside linebackers coach. 21 through 22, he was the D coordinator, and then now he is the Houston Texans head coach. Now, again, I would have rather seen an offensive coaching hire here, but I guess the Texans were realistic. Like, they knew it wasn't going to be sexy for Sean Payton to come in. They probably knew that they're not in, I feel like, maybe as advantageous of a position like Indianapolis or Arizona. That's why they couldn't land a potential Shane Steichen, or, even like the Broncos handling or landing a Sean Payton. Didn't mean to say Arizona, because I don't like the Gannon hire at all. I know some people would give this an A compared to how the Texans are. But again, I got to give respect to Lovie Smith. He lost a Super Bowl against the beat my Saints in the NFC Championship, and then lost the Super Bowl against the Colts. So, I mean, downgrading, I get it. It was, 17 years ago that Lovie Smith went to the Super Bowl now. But versus a guy that's never been a head coach, we're just going off culture, great defensive time, versus a guy that's actually been a head coach. That's a lateral move to me. I'm going to say that's a C. So I've got a C for Demeco Ryans to the Texans. I've got a D for Jonathon Gannon to the Cardinals. And I've got an A, I think just a flat A. An A minus, for Frank Reich to the Carolina Panthers. Now we have Shane Steichen to the Indianapolis Colts right after the Super Bowl. As soon as the Super Bowl was finished, Shane Steichen was hired. And I thought that was kind of funny because, again, Eric Bieniemy has led the number one offense in the NFL for like 3 years now. Clearly Byron Leftwich did some great things with Tom Brady in Tampa and clearly won a Super Bowl with him. But just looking here at Shane Steichen's resume, Chargers from 11 to 12, defensive assistant, Cleveland Browns a little bit, actually a lot of time with the Chargers from quarterbacks coach, offensive, he was an OC, he's an interim OC, clearly offensive coordinator with the Eagles. And then now he is going to be the Indianapolis Colts head coach. And the Eagles offense, I felt like, was very attractive this year. And yes, I know they were loaded. That is the main claim for everybody out there. But actually being able to pull off different game plans when it was needed throughout the season and winning those games, having an awesome rushing attack, having a hand in creating the most balanced offense and really the most balanced team in the NFL when it came to offense and defense. And you just look at the design of the offense. I mean, who ran the option realistically better than Philly this year? Off the option game, they were great, like I just said, mixing it up to really confuse the defense, executing it at a very high level, and still getting those same wide open looks all throughout the season and throughout multiple games. Basically getting the same looks, but with different sets and different personnel. That's coaching. That's impressive. And let's also not forget that he was with Jalen Hurts this year, making that offense into what it was, obviously, with the with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so I'm not going to say he changed Jalen, because I already thought Jalen was him before this season. He just had to show everybody. Don't really care what you have to say about that. I have my opinion on Jalen Hurts. But yeah, he had that hand in helping with Jalen Hurts, creating those different sets, making that balanced team in the NFL, and very, very mistake-free football as well. He was the 6th best in giveaways this year, only 19 of those. The league high was with, ding, 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 you guessed it, the Indianapolis Colts, who he just became the head coach of. And you want to take a look again, how he helped develop Jalen Hurts into the monster that he was this year. He's worked with Justin Herbert in the past. He worked with Rivers in San Diego, of course, working with Hurts, like I just mentioned. So knowing that he just went to the team that had the most turnovers this year and was the 6th best with the team that he just came from, he's going to clearly be able to take care of the football well. Now, this is the best part. Not the sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry, YouTube and everybody that's watching live. I know that won't go on social media, at least TikTok and everything. So you look at the fact that Nick Sirianni actually did give the play calling duties to Shane Steichen in the middle of last season, and that was major. That was absolutely major, knowing that it was really handed off to him. Like, hey, you make this run. I've got the trust in you. I've obviously got bigger things to worry about with the head coach. That shows trust. That shows that they've got that chemistry between each other. He had that chemistry with the offense. They have that dynamic, and that's great for a team. And clearly it paid off with the Eagles. About, like I said, middle of last season, Nick Sirianni handed the play calling over to Shane Steichen. Now, there is a still very high chance that they can trade into the number 1 overall pick. And you look at the fact that Shane Steichen could work his magic again, really pick your poison or pick your project. Who do you want to go get? Clearly, since the Colts need a quarterback. So I'm going to give them a B+ hire. So obviously, just to rank them again real quick, Sean Payton was the best hire to the Broncos at an A+. I think that Frank Reich was the second best hire to the Panthers at an A-. I'm going to give Shane Steichen to the Colts a B+. I will give Demeco Ryans to the Texans a C, and then I will give Jonathon Gannon to the Arizona Cardinals a D. That is going to be my head coaching hires for this. That was some pretty deep research there to get into, but I knew that would be good to dig into because about every year we have about 5 to 8 head coaching positions that are going to come open. So we just have to address it as it is. Appreciate everybody with me tonight. As always, I just don't prefer defensive head coaches. I feel like they don't work out as often. That's a fact, Darby. That's 100% a fact. It's an offensive league. Like we see, Sean McVay's obviously getting into the Super Bowl. Zach Taylor's getting to the Super Bowl. Andy Reid's been at 3 Super Bowls in 5 years and potentially 4. So like we know that obviously the offensive coaches are really going to be able to run it up. Bieniemy is now at the Commanders, though, so he'll have a chance to prove himself. Well, so was that confirmed? I'm looking that up real quick. Okay, Commanders finalized deal to make Bieniemy new OC. We will definitely be getting into that. Woo! Chief said, no Tyreek Hill, no problem, Super Bowl. What they going to do now? No Eric Bieniemy? I'm not going to cause any commotion, but hell yeah, Eric Bieniemy about an hour ago to the Washington Commanders. That's going to be interesting because we could really see that Washington offense come to life. So that'll be really nice to see. But that's enough head coaching talk. Now we're going to talk about a quarterback who, man, I feel 2 ways about this. I'm going to tell you both ways that I feel about it. And you just got to ask the question of like, what is actually going to happen with Lamar Jackson? Like, is he going to be a Raven? Does he really have a chance to go anywhere else? Will the Ravens really let him walk? So let's get into it. I know I'm about a week and a half late on this story, or not late. I was supposed to talk about it roughly about probably 2 weeks later. I'll get this posted right after the show. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are reportedly $100 million apart in contract talks. And luckily they did just hire Todd Monken from the Georgia Bulldogs as their new offensive coordinator. Now, at first I'm just like, how the hell is this happening? He's the only unanimous MVP. He's the most electric and the most athletic player in the NFL. He can change any defensive game plan at any time with his play style. And you're just like, how do you not let this happen? How do you not sign him? How does he not deserve 40, 50, 55 million a year, 60 million a year, like some people are saying? $300 million contract over 5 or 6 seasons. How does he not deserve that? How can you possibly not pay the only unanimous MVP in Super Bowl history that much money? Well, when you look at the fact that the Ravens have been burned in the past from paying players big, and we looked this year that there were teams that paid quarterbacks big, 6 pretty high-profile guys that we talk about on the regular in the NFL, and none of them, literally none of them, at least that I'm about to name, worked out. Let's start with number 1. Hate to do it, but Kyler Murray. He signed a 5-year, $230 million deal with $160 million guaranteed. He's finished every year in the league injured. He has health concerns like Lamar Jackson, and he's got the issues with the commitment and the bickering with the coaches and the players. That's a big reason why the head coaching job wasn't very sexy for the Cardinals in the first place. So, of course, Kyler and his contract make things difficult to bring in more players to get that attractive coaching job, just to make it an attractive place to come and play. I'm not saying that Kyler and Lamar are the same. Well, they are the same in the terms of mobility. I do think Kyler is a better thrower of the football. But again, this is why people were scared when Lamar Jackson bet on himself. What if he gets hurt? The same thing just happened with Kyler and the Cardinals. Now he's hurt. That contract is tied up in there. Let's take a look at Matthew Stafford, who signed a $160 million deal for 4 years right after winning the Super Bowl with $130 million guaranteed. So most of that contract was going to be guaranteed to him. Matthew Stafford got hurt also. He could possibly need Tommy John surgery. And that's a major surgery no matter the sport. He's only 2 years now, technically. Well, no, 1 year now, technically removed from the Super Bowl. Big contract, hurt, really sucks. Aaron Rodgers, $150 million guaranteed on $200 million. And he might not even be coming back to the Packers. He's literally contemplating his future in a darkness retreat, which I haven't looked too much in on that, but sounds like it could be really beneficial. He wants to get the hell away from everybody, clear his mind, and just chill, just relax, like do his thing. Not going to knock him for that. Then you have Deshaun Watson, which this is like the big factor in why people think Lamar should be paid more than Deshaun. And I'm just going to say this is a one-off deal. This Deshaun Watson deal, in my opinion, will never happen again. A fully guaranteed $230 million contract. I could see maybe just hypothetically, $350 million over X amount of years with $230 million guaranteed. I could see that. But I don't know if people realize that the Deshaun Watson contract literally has the potential to go down the worst contract in NFL history. Again, fully guaranteed $230 million. If he doesn't take them, I was nice. If Deshaun Watson doesn't take the Browns, just take them to at least one Super Bowl. That's a bad contract. That is a horrible contract if Deshaun Watson does not get them to the Super Bowl. I wanted to say get them to 2 and win at least one. Don't know if that's really realistic. Everybody thought the Browns cleaned it up, and then they come out with a horrible contract like this. I think Deshaun Watson will be, I think Deshaun will be, solid next year. I don't know if he's going to return back to that top 10 type of status or top 12 or whatever people want to say. And he was worth a good contract, but not this. This is egregious. So again, this deal will never happen again. It will not happen again. So Lamar Jackson should turn away from this deal. The fans should quit looking at this deal. Let's go on to the next quarterback, Russell Wilson. 5 years, $245 million with $165 million guaranteed, which might be unfair to say that it hasn't worked yet because of obviously Nathaniel Hackett's tenure in Denver. It looked awful. He was fired midseason. We know everything that happened with that. But again, they're tied to him in a way that really, now that you look at it, they had no choice but to go get Sean Payton. They had to go get the best the best coach on the market because they made a splash last year with Russell Wilson. I think it's going to work out with the splash with Sean Payton. But again, we are now 5 quarterbacks in, and none of those extensions have worked. Russ moves around some. Watson moves around some. Stafford and Rodgers don't move around much, but they can move. And clearly Kyler Murray moves around a lot. Now, just one more for you. Derek Carr got $65 million guaranteed on his 3-year extension, and he was just cut. So you got Derek Carr, who was just cut. Russell Wilson, who didn't look great. I'm not going to hold it against him, but he still didn't look great. Deshaun Watson, who might have the worst contract in NFL history if he doesn't take them to at least one Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, who might retire. Matthew Stafford, who could have Tommy John surgery and is getting towards the end of his career. And Kyler Murray, who seems to be falling apart in front of our eyes. I think he's talented. He's great, but he clearly can't stay healthy. So this is what the Ravens are looking at. The Ravens are like, he's definitely better than Derek Carr. He hangs with Russ, hangs with Watson. You could have the conversation on Matthew Stafford because Stafford is Stafford. He's won a Super Bowl now. He's towards the end of his career. It's a very controversial topic there. But obviously he's not Aaron Rodgers and, maybe head-to-head with Kyler Murray. So they want to protect what they have. They know that they've got a valuable asset that without question is a top 10 quarterback in this league. They've been burned before, and they don't want to go there again. The fully guaranteed deals are very hard to work with. Injury is a major risk. And let's just look at it. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a fully guaranteed deal. Patrick Mahomes signed a $500 million, $500 million contract after he won the Super Bowl over 10 years, which completely reset the freaking quarterback market. My God. And he doesn't have a guaranteed deal. And he even restructured that deal down the road Unfortunately, Tyreek Hill still got out of town, but he even restructured that deal and I think has a couple of times now to make things happen. And at the end of the day, Lamar has not finished his last 2 seasons due to injury. He is worth big money, no doubt about that. I'm not even going to sit here and say, oh, well, this is what Lamar does with the Ravens offense, and this is why the Ravens should sign him. We know the Ravens should sign him. We know Lamar is a monster. We know he can change a game and turn a game on its head at any moment. That is without question. But Lamar has not finished his last 2 seasons due to injury. Again, he's worth big money, but the Ravens have a good claim. They're scared to commit this heavy given what's happened. Love Lamar, but he relies on his athleticism and on his legs more than his arm. And I'm not doubting Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to doubt Lamar Jackson at all, but I know the Ravens are very well ran. They're very, very smart. They're incredibly smart. And you're just looking at one of your best quarterbacks in franchise history, one of your best players in franchise history, and they don't want to mess this up. Duh, the Ravens want to keep Lamar Jackson. Duh. Who wouldn't make calls on him? But if Lamar wants a fully guaranteed deal, they've been burned paying players big money early on. People went crazy about the Joe Flacco deal after they won the Super Bowl. If Lamar wants a fully guaranteed contract, the Ravens might let him walk, or they might start taking calls. And I don't say that as a hot take, but let's be real. Lamar Jackson's got a lot of value. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's the most valuable free agent on the market in terms of players. Maybe you want to say DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know. Go crazy in the comments, whatever. Nonetheless, Lamar Jackson is one of the biggest free agents right now in the market. Call me crazy, but they would take calls on him. They would take calls before they let him walk, and of course they wouldn't cut him. But yeah, the Lamar Jackson situation, again, they should pay him. I just think $50 million for any quarterback in the league, that's honestly not Mahomes, considering he is now the 6th best quarterback of all time. No quarterback is worth $50 million a year. I think Lamar's worth a solid 40 at a ceiling $45 million, but I would have liked to at least see an AFC title game, if not a Super Bowl appearance. But it is what it is. We know the health and the wide receivers have been a thing. I heard someone say $300 million over 6 years, 200 guaranteed. That's not a horrible case. But again, you're still paying him 50 large. The guaranteed money is what they're off on. Lamar wants to be there, and the Ravens want him to be there, but it's the guaranteed money that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are off on. And before anybody out there goes, oh my God, Adam, but Dak Prescott got it. Dak Prescott got the bag. That was also a really, really stupid decision by the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like that was more of a business move, which we know the NFL is a business. But that was a business move, clearly. Dak won that. Very few playoff wins. Did they go to the NFC title game? I don't know. No MVPs, no Super Bowl MVPs, no Super Bowl appearances. And Dak got the bag. Dak absolutely got the bag. So the Deshaun Watson situation and the Dak Prescott situation, those are one-offs in my opinion. I don't know if anyone would be that silly to pay, like Dak. Again, I get it. Derek Carr is getting paid $40 a year. Aaron Rodgers, $50 million. Matthew Stafford, $40 million. But like I said, Mahomes had reset the market. And I don't think a fully guaranteed contract of $230 million will ever happen in the NFL again. I doubt the Browns get a ring with Deshaun Watson. The Browns are just cursed. Yeah, I can't say you're wrong, bro. The longer the Ravens wait, the more they're going to have to pay Lamar. Technically they don't have to. They could. I don't know the whole situation about franchise tagging. But that's why I said, bro, if Lamar Jackson wants a fully guaranteed deal, the Ravens might have to let him walk. That's the reality of it, man. Honestly, that is the reality, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, like I mentioned before, we are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs. Whether you need a dream home, you want to sell it and get your equity, or you want to add to that retirement plan, get you an asset, a rental property, cash flowing in your pockets. Make sure to hit up Buy and Sell with AJL on all social media platforms. They keep you ahead of the daunting media headlines. It's still a great time to buy. It's still a great time to sell. And everyone's getting fair deals out here. They got an awesome newsletter that they write that they send out once a month. Buy and sell with AJL on all platforms. Like I said, link is in the description. You see it here on the lower third graphic. Let's go ahead and get back into it. Of course, never forget, that you can call the show and debate with me live, 678-480-8716. The QR code here is every bit of social media content we got. If you can't scan it, that's okay. At the NFL with AJL on all platforms. Check the link in the bio. That's all my content. Link is down in the description as well. Look, if you can't find me, you're just not looking hard enough. Like the stream wherever you're at. Please subscribe on YouTube, if nothing else. Also hit the bell so you never miss a post. If they want him, that is, talking about the Ravens, if they want him, that is, if other quarterbacks get paid, it's going to raise the cost. Oh, yeah. God, and this is going to be a great episode. We forget that Herbert's got to get paid. We forget that Burrow's got to get paid. We forget that Hurts has got to get paid. And they're talking about $50 million for Hurts. I've already, put that out there. I think that'd be crazy. I almost know that Jalen Hurts wouldn't demand that type of money. But hell, since we're talking about quarterbacks, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to have a lot of rankings. I wanted to do power rankings after the Super Bowl, but it's like, we only had 8 teams play within the last, X amount of games or weeks before the season was over. So I would like to talk about the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2023 season. Go ahead and call the show and give your top 10. Again, 678-480-8716, 678-480-8716. Ooh, yum. Sorry, just got a super awesome text. But don't forget that you can always call the show. Who are the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2023 season? All right, let's get into it. Top 10 quarterbacks going into next year. Number 1, clearly Patrick Mahomes. He's the sixth best quarterback ever. I said it in my last show. There's no question about it. We know what Patrick Mahomes is. Number 2, maybe you don't like it, but it's Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to let one season removed from back-to-back MVPs and 4 total MVPs in his career and 3 straight 13-win seasons tell me that he's not a great quarterback. We see the numbers. We know what he's been doing. It's just been a down year, and that isn't going to deter me. Number 3, give me Joe Burrow. Believe it or not, he has the highest completion percentage in NFL history, which it might be by the 10th of a percentage or 100th of a percentage, whatever. He's clearly accurate if he's in those types of discussions. We know the people that have been very accurate in the past in this league. He's reached the AFC title game in each of his 2 full seasons as a starter. At number 4, give me Josh Allen. Of course, he's got a big arm. He is a very strong running quarterback, which some people don't like. I kind of don't like it either. I'd love to see him have some longevity in this league. He's very great. 3 straight years of 4,200 yards and 35 touchdowns or more. Now, he does still need to win that big game, and I'm not going to sleep on his talent. I put Burrow above him because Allen's really only been in that upper status for 3 years. Burrow only for 2, starting with the leap with the year before last when he went to the Super Bowl. And Joe has been to 2 straight AFC title games now and a Super Bowl. So got to give Joe Burrow that slight edge. At number 5, give me Jalen Hurts. Y'all know how I feel about my boy Jalen. We saw what Jalen Hurts just did this season, silencing the haters, an insane Super Bowl performance that even shocked me. And I thought he was him before that. And his quarterback coach is now in the running to win the offensive coordinator job. So honestly, losing Steichen, yes, that's going to be a hit, but it might not be as bad as everybody thinks when you got an in-house lateral move, bringing that guy into a good spot. He's a proven winner. He just helped lead his team to the Super Bowl. He was a runner-up in the MVP. Y'all know how I feel about my boy Jalen Hurts. At number 6, give me Justin Herbert. Whoa, Adam, Hurts over Justin Herbert? Absolutely do, bro. I can't deny a guy that just went to the Super Bowl and qualified in the MVP conversation to be kept out of my top 5. And he's a winner. He just went to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert's big knock is he does not have the wins yet. He does not have the wins before I even try to say anything else. He just doesn't have the wins yet. And that's why Hurts is over him. Justin Herbert at number 6. Now, Justin Herbert has the most passing touchdowns and yards in the first 3 years of a starting quarterback in NFL history. Over Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert, number 6 on my list. Number 7, give me Lamar Jackson, who has the second highest win percentage behind only Patrick Mahomes among active quarterbacks, 74%. He hasn't been healthy or great in the playoffs. I get that, but you can't win 74% of your games in a division like the AFC North and say that this guy's not top 10. We know how electric he is. We just got off the segment about him. He's very athletic, and he can really dictate a game at any point that he wants to. At number 8, 8, 9, and 10 was kind of tough. Number 8's probably going to turn heads, but give me Russell Wilson. I firmly believe that Sean Payton will reignite his, really not even reignite it. Well, it could be a reignition, I guess, for Russell Wilson. He had one bad year, which was clearly horrible. So I think he's going to super capitalize off his big arm, off of his big time talent, off of his superstar traits. We know what Russell Wilson's done in the past. He's got the Rodgers, he's got the Mahomes type of vibe with the athleticism and making any throw. Clearly he was bad this past year. And I did just see some tape. Shout out to Theo Ash NFL on the Stay Hot podcast. Love you guys, Theo. You are a freaking brainiac, bro. Your tape breakdown and just in general, his tape breakdown on Russell Wilson, showing that Nathaniel Hackett actually drew up some pretty decent schemes at a lot of the times for Russell Wilson, but the problem was Russ himself. Clearly, Sean Payton was a great hire. We heard him on the herd. He's going to look at all of his times that he scored a touchdown, all the times he had a big play, put that all into one thing, and then make sure that that is able to happen for Russell Wilson, really no matter what it takes. And just that statement alone shows me that Sean Payton's going to do big things in Denver. At number 9, oh, man. Okay, so let me look real quick. Yeah, I'm just going to roll with it. I'm confident. I like it. Number 9, give me Trevor Lawrence. He really, really came alive this year. Doug Peterson has got him performing very, very well. 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 95 passer rating. So I can really see Lawrence next year going for that 4,500 yards, 30-plus touchdowns type of year with no more than 10 interceptions, really. We could see him turn into that first-year Justin Herbert, unfortunately, in his third year. But, hey, Doug Peterson clearly did some great things with him. And then at number 10, so I could have went many different ways. I could have went Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins. But I'm going to go Geno Smith. And I think he rightfully earned his spot here. I know it's only been 1 year, but if Pete Carroll just showed him that he can, without question, do that, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, I think a little over 4,000 yards, led the NFL in completion percentage, if I'm not mistaken, and winning comeback player of the year, and being super talented after you had to replace Russell Wilson, and getting written off and you didn't write back. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, at number 10, give me Geno Smith. You could interchange him with Jared Goff, maybe Dak or Kirk. Goff had a lot better of a season than people think, and maybe even a Deshaun Watson as well. I don't really know there, but overall, give me number 1, Patrick Mahomes, number 2, Aaron Rodgers, number 3, Joe Burrow, number 4, Josh Allen, number 5, Jalen Hurts, number 6, Justin Herbert, number 7, Lamar Jackson, number 8, Russell Wilson, number 9, Trevor Lawrence, and number 10, give me Geno Smith as my top 10 quarterbacks heading into the NFL next season. Do I have anybody in the chat? Ooh, we got 10 people viewing live with us. What's going on, everybody? Ooh, it shows me we got 9 people on YouTube. We got 1 person on Twitch. Nobody on Facebook. That's cool. I didn't even realize that I could do that just there. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the show right now. Oh, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Again, this is the NFL with AJL episode 5. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping in. We got one more topic before we head out, and it's going to be a fun one. QR code for every bit of our content. Don't forget, you can call the show 678-480-8716. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys. As we round out the show, I know we just finished the Super Bowl, but I want to talk about it again. The Super Bowl is going to Las Vegas next year. Super Bowl LVIII, a.k.a. 58. If you don't know your Roman numerals, I'm going to share my screen for the first time ever on a stream. And we're going to take a look at the Super Bowl odds. Let's go ahead and share this. Let's see how it works. I'm going to take this off the screen. Which one's the best? I think that one looks the best. All right. So as you guys can see, the Super Bowl odds for next year, we got Kansas City at plus 500, Bills right after them. I'll just go down it. We got Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Eagles, Bengals as the top 5 from 1 to 5. After that, from the 6 through 10, we have the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Broncos. The Jets and the Jaguars are over the Broncos. That is crazy to me. I think it's crazy that the Cowboys are as high as they are because we just know they're not going to do anything. I would probably switch and put the Broncos right under the Chargers. That's just me, though. Dolphins, I understand it's a great story with Tua, but I think they're riding a little high there. Dolphins, Lions, Packers, Rams, Giants, Browns, Raiders, Vikings, Saints, blah, 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 blah. So, again, we have our way, way, way too early Super Bowl odds for next year. I'm not mad at the top 5. Kansas City, Bengals, I think, should be number 2. I would go Chiefs 1, Bengals 2, Eagles 3, Niners 4. No, Eagles 3, Bills 4, Niners 5. I would do probably move the Broncos all the way up if I'm being for real. I just really feel like the Sean Payton and Russell Wilson experiment or whatever you want to call it would be good. So I think they deserve respect over the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Jets, and the Jaguars. Definitely over the Dolphins, Lions, Packers, Rams, Giants. So short little segment here, but I just wanted to kind of get into the Super Bowl odds. Call the show. Let me know what you think. Where does your favorite team rank? Kind of just go through it here a little bit for everybody. Dolphins, Lions, Packers, Rams, Giants, Browns, Raiders, Vikings, my Saints, Steelers, Panthers, Bucks, Patriots, right next to each other. Commanders, Seahawks, Falcons, Titans, Bears, Colts, Texans, Cardinals with the worst Super Bowl odds right next to the Houston Texans. I'll just be honest. I think my Super Bowl next year is going to be a rematch because when I take a look at, the Chiefs, I think, are clearly the favorites to come out of the AFC. There's no question about that. I believe you're going to have a great offseason. Mahomes clearly just, emerging to another level. They clearly found some promise in Juju, Kadarius Toney, and MVS. Travis Kelce does exist for everyone getting on my ass on TikTok. But it doesn't mean that they can't go get another wide receiver 1 or another wide receiver. They have to definitely bolster up that offensive line. So I think without question, Kansas City is the favorite in the AFC next year. The Bills, like them a lot. I've picked them the last 2 years to go to the Super Bowl, and they've disappointed me both times, whether it's not getting a run game, Josh Allen's regressing and freaking out, or they're just not playing good football in general and tricking everybody. I can't take the Bills to come out of the AFC. I'm not high on the Ravens or the Chargers or, definitely not the Jets or the Jags to actually come out of the AFC. I'd say top 3 in that, to come out of the AFC, I would go Chiefs, Bengals, and then probably Bills. And then for the NFC, of course, I'm worried that Jalen Hurts just lost his offensive coordinator, but he's going to have his quarterbacks coach coming in to actually coach him. So that's going to be pretty nice for sure. And, they're going to have to get another DC. That way they don't look, as a lot of people said they were fraudulent. They didn't play a super great schedule. We all understand that. But I believe when you look at the NFC as a whole, we don't know what's going on with the quarterback situation with the Niners. Even if the Eagles both scored, or scored both C+ or B-, offensive and defensive coordinators, are we betting on the Cowboys to come out of the AFC? God, no. Or the NFC? God, no. We're not talking about the Lions. We're not talking about the Packers, the Rams. We're not talking about the Giants. If the Vikings had another quarterback other than Kirk Cousins, I'd probably say the Vikings would be a close second. Tom Brady's gone, not the Panthers. It's again next year. I think we're gonna have a rematch, Chiefs Eagles. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think. That is my way too early Super Bowl 58 prediction. Is this going to be a rematch? The Chiefs are without question the favorites to come out of the AFC, and the Eagles. I think just when you look at everything, I get it. I think Jalen Hurts is only going to improve. I get it. They're an OC and a DC down, but even if they got a B+ or, a C+, B- coordinator, I don't believe Brock Purdy, Jimmy G, or even Trey Lance at any point, despite how great that Niners team and roster is, would actually get them into the Super Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, as always, we're sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your international, worldwide real estate needs. Wherever you're at right now, we're about to get out of the show. And not subscribed to my content, but y'all are still soaking it up, so I super appreciate you. Hit the bell so you never miss a short, a live, a clip. As always, the QR code covering my Drew Brees jersey will give you every bit of social media and podcast content we got. If you can't scan that, at the NFL with AJL, literally everywhere. If you can't find me, you're not looking hard enough. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. This was the NFL with AJL, episode 5. We talked about Justin Fields. We talked about Lamar Jackson. We talked a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of head coaches, a lot of prime positions in the NFL. Guys, it feels so good to be back. I appreciate the outpour on all social media, TikTok, YouTube and Instagram especially. Y'all are getting in my ass about the terrible Super Bowl call, in my opinion. I love it. I'm here for it. This is the NFL with AJL, episode 6. We'll catch y'all on Tuesday.